All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're getting into the absolute core of a country's climate action on forests. We're talking about the National Strategy or Action Plan for REDD+. Think of it as the master blueprint, the plan that steers the whole ship.
Now, the UNFCCC actually requires every country going for REDD+ to have one of these. And this is key, it's so much more than just a piece of paper. It's really the culmination of all that heavy lifting, the analysis, the talks with stakeholders, the tough decisions made during the readiness phase. You could say it's the final game plan.
So that's the big question, right? How do you actually build this thing? It sounds pretty complicated, and it can be, but the good news is it breaks down into a really clear, logical flow.
So here's how we'll walk through it. First, we'll look at the core strategic framework. Then we'll unpack those three big questions: the why, the what, and the how. And we'll wrap up by talking about why this is really a living document.
The best strategies, the ones that really make a difference on the ground, they're almost always built on a surprisingly simple but super powerful logic. It all comes down to answering three basic questions in order.
First up, why? You've got to nail down the purpose. Why are we even doing this? What's the big picture, the end goal? Then you move on to the what. Okay, so what exactly are we going to do? What are these specific policies and actions that will get us to that vision?
And last but not least, the how. This is the nuts and bolts. How are we going to pull it all off? What are the systems, the money, the laws, the institutions that will make this strategy a reality?
And this why, what, how thing isn't just theory. It's how it works in the real world. I mean, just look at the strategies from countries like Ecuador or Chile. You can literally see the structure. It just makes sense. And it gives everyone involved a clear roadmap they can actually follow.
Okay, so let's dig into that framework, starting with the why. This part is absolutely critical. It's all about building a solid foundation by tying REDD+ into the country's broader goals.
And what's really important to get here is that the why is not just about trees, not at all. It's about figuring out how REDD+ fits with the country's big development goals. It's about understanding the state of the forests, what's driving deforestation, and then creating a vision for how REDD+ can help the entire country.
So here's the bottom line. A REDD+ strategy just can't be its own separate thing, off in a corner. For it to work, to get other ministries on board, to actually get funded, it has to be woven into the fabric of national planning. We're talking about aligning it with the big stuff, the National Development Plan, any green growth strategies, you name it.
And this idea of alignment goes global, too. When a country connects its REDD+ plan to international frameworks, like the SDGs, for instance, it just makes their case that much stronger. It helps attract support and shows that their efforts are part of a bigger global picture.
All right, so once that why, that strategic foundation is locked in, it's time to get into the what. This is where things start to get really concrete. We're talking about the actual, tangible actions that are going to happen.
And the first major decision here is about scope. You've got those 5 official REDD+ activities, and a country has to figure out which ones to prioritize. Are they going to focus on slowing deforestation, beefing up carbon stocks, maybe sustainable forest management? It all really boils down to what makes sense for them, their situation, where they can make the biggest impact, and what they have the capacity to do.
So how do you implement these activities? Well, the main tools in the toolbox are what we call policies and measures, or PAMs. These are basically the specific actions the government takes, things like changing laws, starting new programs, whatever it takes to directly address what's causing deforestation.
And here you can see exactly how that works. Let's say your goal is to reduce deforestation. A classic PAM for that is to beef up forest law enforcement. Or if you're aiming for sustainable management, you might put support behind community forestry programs. Want to enhance carbon stocks? Reforestation is your go-to. See, this is how the high-level strategy gets turned into real-world action. Okay, so we've covered the why and the what. That brings us to the final and absolutely essential piece of the puzzle, the how. This part of the plan lays out the nitty-gritty of how all those great ideas and policies are actually going to get done. And creating the national strategy itself is a whole process. You start by, planning the process. Then you build up all your data and analysis. After that, you define your policies and measures. Then you get into a cycle of drafting and talking to stakeholders. And finally, you get it officially signed off and built into the country's laws. The how section really has to map out the entire operational architecture. It has to answer all the tough questions. What are the laws we need? Who's in charge of what? Where's the money coming from? How are we going to track our progress? And a huge one, how are we going to keep stakeholders involved every step of the way?
And I can't stress this enough. Making this work isn't just a job for the Forestry or Environment Ministry, no way. It demands serious coordination across the whole government. You need the Finance Ministry on board for the money, the Planning Ministry for land use, the Agriculture Ministry for supply chains. It's a team effort for sure.
All right, let's get to our last section. And this one covers a concept that is maybe one of the most important things to remember. A national strategy is not some report you write, print out, and then let it gather dust on a shelf. It is a living, breathing document.
There's a great line from the source material that says these are organic documents, and that just nails it. The whole point is that the design process is iterative. It's supposed to grow and change over time.
So why is that so critical? Well, think about it. Things change, right? As a country starts to implement its plan, they're going to learn what works and what doesn't. The reasons for deforestation might shift. Their own technical skills, like monitoring forests, will get better. So having an iterative approach just means the strategy can adapt, stay sharp, and actually get better and better over time.
So let's leave it with this final thought. A truly great strategy isn't about having all the right answers on day 1. It's about having a process in place to find better answers for day 100 and day 1000. It's a blueprint designed for revision. And that leaves every country with a really important question to consider. How will your strategy evolve?